here to talk to you about the process of rites of passage, or the topic of rites of passage, significance of rites of passage. And before we even address that issue, we have to first and foremost make note of the impact that slavery had on African people. Slavery is a topic that we don't even want to discuss as a people. We like to ignore it. We don't want to talk about it. It was in the past. It was way back then. There's no need to talk about it today. And the reason that we don't want to discuss it is because of how tragic, not only how tragic it was, but how tragically it still affects us today. Slavery is alive and well. It is with us. We breathe it, we eat it, we sleep it. It's our day-to-day. Slavery, it's because of slavery that we have the names that we have. Slavery is alive today. It's because of slavery that we eat the foods that we eat. We live on a slave diet, or we try to live on a slave diet, because this is not a diet that we live on. Our YouTube, I was going to say Facebook, our YouTube about our slave diet at some other time. But slavery affects how we interact with each other. It affects, our kindness towards each other, or lack of kindness, our rudeness that we have towards each other. Slavery affects even the way that we worship. It affects the religions that we have. Black folk primarily Christian. We're Christian because of slavery. Black folk leave Christianity and become Muslim without being conscious of the enslavement of African people in Sudan, Mauritania, North Africa, and the Middle East. Slavery is real. It's alive. Slavery teaches us to hate the things that make us who we are, taught us to, and the living legacy of slavery today teaches us to hate who we are. We look at our ancestors as animists, animal worshippers, nature worshippers, and polytheists. And they were not. Our ancestors gave the concept of the one supreme being to the world. Out of the Nile Valley, the Judeo-Christian faith was birthed. Islam was birthed out of the worship of our ancestors deep within the heart of Africa. Those religions are corrupt offsprings of African spirituality. But slavery, as I said, is with us in so many ways. It's with us in how we dress, how we live. So we want to stay away from the issue because it is so alive. Slavery was tragic to African people. Men and women were taken out of Africa. There were no hustlers and pimps and video vixens taken out of Africa. There were no Qs and AKAs and Deltas and Masons taken out of Africa. African people were taken out of Africa. There were no thugs taken out of Africa. There were no hoochie mamas and drug dealers and prostitutes and criminals taken out of Africa. They took the warriors, they took mothers, they took fathers, they took the artists, they took the tradesmith, they took people who knew how to smelt gold and iron and make shields and make homes and make clothes. They took people who knew how to farm and produce from the earth food. They took the warrior class. They took warriors and de-Africanized them, and they became the predators that we see today in the street. Because they're men, as we are, they have aggression, but it's not used to protect. Its aggression is turned inward on the community because that's what slavery did. So our people we have to re-Africanize ourselves. That is the purpose of rites of passage. I wasn't off subject, I was very on subject. Rites of passage is a part of the re-Africanization. It's a part of the taking back of our identity, as we call Sankofa, going back to fetch our past, or we call the Wahimi Mesu, the rebirth in Melanetra. So we have to re-Africanize ourselves because we're still at war in our minds, in our culture, in our communities. We're at war in our very homes with slavery. So we have to win this war. It's not over. It didn't end way back then. with Abraham Lincoln, who was a racist and who was pro-slavery. He was pro-union. He was not anti-slavery. That's another issue, another topic. But slavery has not won the battle because we're still fighting. We win against slavery through the process of re-Africanization. We have to take back our names, take back the ways that we worship the Creator, that we should call by the language of our ancestors, Nkulu Kulu, Enga, Obata, and Ra. We don't because of slavery. So rites of passage is the recovery of identity. Rites of passage began when your mother and your father first looked at each other. And you had a ritual of process, a rite of process, a rite of passage at your conception. You had another rite of passage as you went around the sun every year, what we call your birthday. So I've come from a rites of passage program today, which inspired me to do this video, this evening I should say. And we celebrated the process of these young people in this rites of passage program becoming adolescents. We honored them and we celebrated that in our culture, with the drums, with the African dance, with the African ambience all around us. We wrapped them in the culture and celebrated who they are as young Africans, growing into manhood, growing into womanhood. Rites of passage is like an antidote against the poisons of society, against the diseases. It's a vaccine against the diseases of society. It prepares young people to deal with the things that they must face. So that's the significance of rites of passage. That's why it's so important for us as a people. It's a part of our recovery. It's a part of our cultural sanity. And we can't lose that battle. We have to realize who we are. We have to stop hating who we are. We have to stop trying to be everything except for who we are. African people mix with some of everything. Like, everybody is mixed. But our common denominator is that we're African, more so than anything. And the more we realize that, the better off we would be as a people. So I'm going to leave you with that on this video on the re-Africanization and rites of passage. We can't fail in this battle. We won't fail. We have to succeed for the sake of our ancestors, for the sake of our unborn. And I'll leave you with that and say,